You know what is the most awkward thing to ever see on your recommendation list? Your own video. I have questions to ask. Chapter 2. Snug under strange straps of his M9, Kurtz was not a happy camper. Shit, this really sucks, he complained. All these back roads makes it easier to make our way undetected, but it's out of the way, and I must have flattened 20 toasters by now, and a couple cats and dogs, I think. Quit your belly yanking, you big baby. All that fucking whining is giving me a headache. Melissa silently cursed to herself as C2 caused some significant collateral damage. It would take a while for the municipality crews to straighten out the mess, set down power lines, and fallen telephone poles. So he wondered what everyone would think caused the damage. I just heard from the infiltration containment teams, the Sergeant Major continued. They're all in place awaiting us. Before we get there, they'll be busy with their videotape and tracing activities, attempting to identify anyone showing up or trying to leave in person, hunting down electronic leads to anyone getting a direct feed to tonight's big event. Our job's easy in comparison, so sell a socket already! I should be kicking my heels together. Sosuke is the one with the tough assignment. We should really be helping him instead of trying to rescue his best girl, Kaname. The guys on foot could take care of that, can't they? They try not to be any more of a moron than usual, Weber. Who would you rather face? A resurrected Gowron or Sosuke if we held him and Kaname stuffed it? Melissa Kretzer controls a little tired. Lighthearted Baron did not disguise the fact that the two people that meant the world to them were in great danger. Good point, sis. Every once in a while, and I can see why they put you in command. Usually I think it's just because you have a sweet ass. I would follow that anywhere, you know? What building is Kaname in currently? Moving a series of switches, he brought up a map of the city. Zeroed in on desired coordinates and zoomed in on the blocks in question. Looks like he's been moved from the gambling parlor back to the rearmost warehouse. Location's been stable for the past quarter of an hour. Your position grows more precarious with each fucking minute, Sergeant. Melissa switched momentarily to another channel, receiving a message from the lookout team. I just got word. The fan dropped off Sosuke. They called out Simon walking in. We're gonna have to pick up the pace. Shit! This sucks up even more! Kirsten knocked a small car into the side, watching as the vehicle slid up into the neighbor's front porch. I'm sure glad I'm not an insurgent, Smear. Those poor sons of bitches are gonna be busy tomorrow. Don't get too reckless, Curty boy. If our contacts in the DSCF or Japanese government get wind of this, maybe use a secret bill sent to the Fine Ice Clowns. You know where we live, and they write our checks. Melissa was only half choking. Thanks, babe. I feel so much better now. Kurt's grinned as he knocked down a set of street lamps. It was dark. Very dark. A large part of that was due to the thick bag over her head, but the room lights were off as well. Darkness upon darkness. And quiet. Dead quiet. Kaname was worried, uncomfortable and confused. Where was she? What would he do with her? Who were they? Why was she here? When would anyone clue her in? She didn't remember much. After waking up in a small, well-lit room, she found herself tied to a chair. The picture was taken. They had carried a dripping syringe over her. There had been a prick on her arm. Then she woke up, wherever that was. She was still bound. Anytime she let herself get excited, the bag made it hard for her to breathe. She had to stay as calm as possible. Sosuke, she thought. Where was he? What was he doing? Did he know she was missing? When would he come look for her? The bracelet. She had been so disappointed, so upset. It was still there. She felt a rush of gratitude, followed by the pins and needles of regret. As he treated him so poorly, he would not try to rescue her? She didn't think so, not with what they had come to mean to each other, not with the growing intimacy they shared. Kaname, sweetie, with how he feels towards you, you could cheat on him. And he wouldn't be upset. He would just give you those sad puppy dog eyes and ask you what he did wrong. So he thought the risk of being a whispered would be somewhat lower by now. It was a tricky situation. If the risk was too high, she might be in danger at something like this. The risk wasn't high enough. There might be no reason for Mithril to keep Sosuke anywhere near her. She knew all too well how Tessa and Mardukas had to try to convince Sosuke to voluntarily accept the reassignment. They started making it in order, no doubt afraid of what Sosuke might do. Was this because of her special nature? Suddenly, the noise of a door opening. Things got a little lighter. Overhead lights must be on. Footsteps, well measured. Light. High heel shoes. A woman. The bag was pulled off her head. Well, they certainly make you bait these days, don't they? It was a woman, a young lady of Oriental descent, not too much older than Kaname. She wore a sequin evening gown, fancy heels, a large pearl necklace, a jewel-studded bracelet and rings. Her midnight black hair was ebony rainfall. Her lips and cheeks shone more than a natural color. Her fingernails looked like bloody daggers. Where am I? Who are you? Kaname blinked against the bright lights. Was this a rescuer? Tormentor? A pathetic observer? Why do they ask such boring questions? I guess it should be expected. The girl took out a cigar, much thicker than a cigarette. She clipped out the end, lit it, and took a long pull. She breathed the smoke directly in Kaname's face. It's not my job to answer your questions, my dear. But you are ever so fortunate. I'm in the mood to talk today. The young lady flicked a few answers over the captive. Why am I here? Kaname asked, a little hotter than she had intended. She saw the other woman smile at her discomfort and irritation. It made her all the more angry and determined. She hoped she'd have a chance someday to wipe that smile off her pained face. I suppose I have been rather rude. I should introduce myself. My name is Mayway. Unless your fate is sealed, you'll not hear my family name. My father is a man of some importance, and one of the founders of our special club. He is quite taken with your appearance, but there's no accounting for taste. I'm surprised at just how obviously he was cheating at cards, trying to win you. I had to win, just to try to say him. Her bell-like laughter rang across the empty room. I suppose I am your guard and your handler. Perhaps you your file arbiter. We could have been very good friends, but you're not my taste. Pity. There were people walked in the room. They all wore livery, men and women alike. Some pushed carts laden with bottles, sifters, glasses, and ice buckets. Others carried large platters of food and small trays of delicacies. The bulkier men struggled with the large mahogany and maple gaming tables, roulette wheels, and buckets of chips, packs of cards and dice. One woman swung a small incense diffuser at the end of a fancy chain. Large bunches of flowers were brought in after the crystal vases were put into place. You know, I just thought about it, but didn't I see this episode of Go-Go 13? As you can see, Mayway added, you're here at an auspicious time. It's game night. She laughed again, grabbing a crab puff of a passing tray. I so adore a game night. She did not elucidate. Kaname used the silence as an opportunity to look about the room. She had no way of telling just how large it was, or how far it extended. Mammoth windows looked over a darkened expanse, mysterious as total lack of definition. At the very least, the room was a double L shaped. The corners of the room were very far apart. It is truly amazing at what money can do, Mayway chirped, nibbling on a small French pastry. That glass was designed for aquariums and high-pressure research facilities. While the designers probably never gave it much thought to such a characteristic, it is completely bulletproof as well. Small and large caliber rounds might chip it and ruin the view some. She sniffed, giving her opinion that. But armor-piercing rounds will prove no danger. She left Kaname aside, walking over to the drum to drink carts. Bulletproof? Why should that be important? What did Kaname find herself in the middle of this time? I offer you a drink, but your hands will remain tied for a little longer. Mayway returned, crystal goblet in hand. My, what a lovely brooch. She reached out to fondle the jewelry, accidentally twisting one of the yearning petals. The microphone was now active. Oh, I was afraid I had broken. There's another chance of class adjustable pots. I'll have to make something like that for me. Much more impressive, of course. The woman grabbed Kaname's throat and held her to her feet. She was surprisingly strong. The lights behind the glass went on. Kaname was speechless for a moment, trying to make sense of what she saw. Everything on this side of the glass was so fancy, so elegant. Everything on the other side so imposing, so large, so dreary. Brick walls, some intact and some partially crumbled, ran haphazardly across the floor of what appeared to be a huge warehouse. Old and new-looking cabins, roofless houses, and small ornate offices dotted the area. Seemingly moved here intact. Wood plank bridges, metal scaffolding, ropes, and nets were commonplace, situated at various heights. They looked like to be pools of machine oil, bins of metal scraps, huge rolls of parchment-like paper, stacks of lumber and copper pipes. Broken portions of huge shipping crates were outnumbered only by numerous barrels, some empty and others leaking unknown materials. What? Was all Kaname could say, her mind trying to integrate everything she was seeing. Well, I must admit, it does not have the charm of the Colosseum in Rome, but it serves its purpose beautifully. Melee paused and nodded to a group of well-dressed women who had made their way into the large room. There are other arenas, too. She waved her hands towards the large bank of plastic-screen TVs, covering various areas of the walls. Some were flickering to life, showing similar enclosures. But this is the one where all the fashionable people hang out. With a long, slow knife, she cut Kaname's bonds. There are enough people around now. I can afford to be charitable. But I hope you do not abuse my good nature. She removed a small chrome-plated pistol from her purse. Kaname began to put together a scenario that left her feeling weak and lightheaded. Sosuke, she shivered, hoping she was wrong. Yes, that rather intriguing beau of yours. He's quite interesting, causing quite a buzz amongst this betting crowd. Of course, there's no chance of his surviving too long. But no one has any idea just how long he will last. Mayway looked at Kaname in the eye. For your sake, I hope you last a good while. Her smile could not have been out of place on a hyena. Why? What does this all have to do with me? Kaname was afraid she knew. First, Mayway replied, holding a small finger. You need to be alive in case he demands to see you. Second, she elbowed another finger. There's still the unlikely chance that he might actually be the last man standing. If that were the case, you would both get to live. You wouldn't even receive a sizable amount of money to buy your silence. We wouldn't get many good voluntary competitors if we made our victors disappear and broke our promises. Mayway walked around Kaname, looking her up and down. I suppose there's a third reason in all as well, she sniffed. You might serve a purpose in one of the local brothels, the one with no chance of escape. Or if you prove convincing enough, one of the wealthy men or women might favor you as a mistress or your concubine. The number of people in the room, majority of room fancy clothes or outlandish outfits, was increasing rapidly. Let's go stake our claim to some of the good seats, Mayway said, a strong sense of enthusiasm in her voice. You're not going to want to miss this. Sosuke wasn't used to this kind of street. Turnabout's fair play. The street had not seen Sosuke's like before. Neon lights were everywhere. The noisy, teeming mess of humanity came in all shapes, sizes, sexes, and races. Rose-eyed vendors hawked cheaply made wares. Drunkards looked for handouts. Hookers piled their trade. Pickpockets prowled about, looking for the unwary. Policemen looked the other way. Street musicians added to the general cacophony. A rather serious young man with a facial scar and a large duffel bag did not stand out. The pickpocket had marked Sosuke. Grabbing what he thought was a simple wallet, he ran triumphantly to the crowd. A young mercenary pressed a button on his belt. Transmitter sent out a signal that detonated the pilfered item. Sosuke shook his head. He might have found a better use for that later. The drunkard waited until Sosuke passed through a dark, lightly populated area. He approached with a half-empty bottle and concealed butcher's knife. Things did not go as he had planned either. The intended target took a significant step towards the convincing man to sober up. Sosuke pushed the ball halfway down to the inebriated man's throat. Sosuke selected and naturally screamed, "Look at me, I've got lots of money." That didn't keep a trio of streetwalkers from surrounding him, rubbing their hands up and down his body. Sosuke was in no mood for delays. When one woman asked him if he liked what he saw, Sosuke fled to her to quick with a reply. If I were to waste my time and money on a woman of no value, so I'd at least look for one who is attractive. His thoughts went to Kaname. There was only one attractive woman who mattered to him, and she was in peril. He had no time or desire to deal with riffraff and gutter trash. The hooker attempted to slap the important soldier across the face, but her wrist was caught and roughly broken. I would also look for one who was not stupid. He shoved the woman out of his way. There was a loud whistle. 4 large men, dressed in black shirts, moved to block Sosuke's path. "Keep him there, gentlemen. I believe he needs some instruction on manners and how to treat a lady." The speaker wore a large velvet hat, looking as cliched as such a hat possibly could. His coat and tie were vivid magenta. His shoes were gold. Polished wood walking stick was topped by a carved silver dragon. Sosuke turned to face the pimp. "It would be in everyone's best interest if I was not delayed." "Oh my. Should we sever our shoes, gentlemen?" The pimp threw his hat to one of his girls. He took out a comb and fixed his hair. A small Derringer-like gun dropped up from the sleeve into his hand. "Perhaps he'll be more respectful after we give him a massage. Make it rough. Very rough." He snapped his fingers, and a large man walked slowly towards the intended victim. Sosuke recognized a number of mithril operatives dressed in street clothes, mixed in the crowd across the way. With subtle hand gestures, he asked them to keep their distance. Without warning, he swung his bag in a vicious arc, connected to the side of the pimp's head. The fancy man slammed hard to the ground, unconscious. The 4 other men looked surprised at first, became very determined. They moved to surround their target. "The poor fools. Their medical bills are going to be through the roof!" If it had been a deserted alley, he would have shot the man and moved on to more important matters. He could not afford to be delayed by the police or carted out to jail. The martial arts training he received through mithril instructors would have to suffice. That, and the 2 female skirmishing he grew up with in Afghanistan. One enforcer reached Sosuke ahead of the others. His fate gave the others pause. An arm was not meant to move in that fashion, or to that anatomical point. His shoulder painfully dislocated, the man began to scream. A kick to the head silenced him. The other 3 men looked at each other, then charged as a pack. They stayed close together purposely, intending to use their sheer weight to bring Sosuke to the ground. The way a group of lionesses drags down a Cape buffalo, their opponent rolled hard at their feet, knocking them down in a cumbersome triangle. A savage chop across the trachea of one man changed their priorities, as he quickly grew blue in the face. A fierce kick to the groin left another man retching. The 3rd man made it to his feet, drew a wicked-looking knife, and took up a well-balanced fighting stance. He managed to saddle slash along Sosuke's arm as the younger man jumped heels first. Sprawling on the ground, he watched helplessly as a fist sent him to dreamland. "Tell your friends they should not expect this kind of charity if we meet again. It would be all to your fans to stay out of my way in the future. I am not easily disforgiving." Sosuke headed off in the intended direction. You know, this is probably what people think Batman treats the mooks. There was no further mishaps before he reached the Happy Crane, a mahjong parlor and gambling house. Large crowds surrounded that establishment, and similar ones up and down the street. At the door, toothless and near headless, bowed as the young man approached. "Welcome to our humble store, young master. How may I help you?" His eyes went wide when Sosuke showed him the invitation he had been sent. "Right this way. We have been expecting you. I am to inform you that there's time for a girl or a game of mahjong, so either be to your liking. That and any manner of fine food and drink you might wish. Otherwise, I aim to show you to a merle that will be to your liking." A merle? Sosuke could not fathom the intent behind that word. "I wish to reach my destination as soon as possible. I do not desire to be distracted. Please lead the way." The young man, dragging one foot as he walked, cleared a path through the noisy crowd. Live roosters filled cages and lumberjacks of goldfish swam in right bowls, prizes for the younger crowd. The parlor rooms were filled past recommended capacity. A number of matches were in progress. Money changed hands for many different reasons. Pretty girls sat on patrons' laps, and a small corner bar did good business. Smoke, perfume, food odors, and the stench of unwashed bodies mixed. The noise level was tremendous. Making his way into a dark and narrow corridor, the guide led Sosuke to a bare-lit area, devoid of patrons. A beautiful mosaic mural filled in the black wall, depicting a scene from feudal Japan. The old man ran to the wall and pulled a small rope, causing a bell to sound. A few moments later, a panel slid upward, revealing a simple metal door. The old man inserted a key into the lock, turned it, and pushed open the door. Two nondescript men in well-cut suits waited just past the threshold. They bowed to Sosuke and gestured that he should follow them. He did. The passageway led to rickety old stairs, which in turn descended down to a narrow tunnel. Walls lined with bricks and crumbling mortar. We apologize. Legend Bringer has trouble with certain words. Shut up, Trix! The tunnel was lit by a series of oil lamps. It veered here and there, but mostly followed by a fairly straight course. The older construction gave way to plaster walls, cinder block, and electrical lighting. Sosuke and his companions had to wait until each number of locked metal gates. Men with guns and walkie-talkies were present at each checkpoint. Finally, the tunnel gave way to another flight of stairs. This one headed upward. At the top of those stairs, the man looked up with Stetson and mentioned for Sosuke to keep walking. He did so, stopping when he was met by a short, broad man with salt and pepper goatee and pinstripe suit.
Mr. Sagaru, isn't it?
The man smiled when Sosuke nodded his head.
We're also very pleased you chose to join the roster of competitors. I hope you had no trouble finding your way here.
Sosuke held up one hand abruptly, causing the well-tailored man to frown involuntarily. Miss Chidori, how is she? I will need to see proof that she is alive and unharmed before I go any further. The sheer authority in the voice of someone so young caught the man on guard. I hope for your sake, she is fine. The look on Sosuke's face would have brought the devil himself up short. Yeah, Devil Man's right now looks even shivering. The man felt a trickle of sweat run down his back. This was certainly invigorating. Unpleasant, but invigorating.
We anticipate your request. I can assure you she's been well taken care of. You'll step over to a small room. There's a television monitor and a telephone. They will provide you with all the proof you need.
The man pushed a series of buttons, activating the appropriate carryings and routing systems. He dialed a number on a telephone and handed the receiver to Sosuke.
Please do not ask any leading questions. Simply satisfy yourself that the young lady is unharmed.
After talking briefly with Kaname, Sosuke indicated he was ready to proceed.
The rules and stipulations will explain to you in a little while. You'll be instructed in the nature of a little competition when you reach your holding cell. Each cell has a number of remotely operated doors, each opening to a different hallway leading to one of multiple arenas. Whenever a door opens, you have 10 seconds before it closes. If you fail to enter a hallway or do not reach the intended destination promptly, you will be disqualified. You'll be considered dead for the purposes of the game.
The way the man said the latter bit, Sosuke had no doubt that his death would be more than a simple game consideration. Will I be given any idea what to expect in regards to my opponents? Sosuke doubted he would receive such a boon.
No, you need to remember only one thing. There will be no innocents walking in the arenas. Anyone you see will be your foe. At most, one man or woman will leave the fighting arena alive, that is.
The man spoke as he separated Sosuke along a wide utilitarian passageway, the walls displaying pictures of past winners. Some faces were familiar. One caught Sosuke's attention. Gowron!
Boo! Boo! I don't say this, but boo.
He paused, unable to tear his keys away.
You know that man?
His host asked, stopping a quizzical look on his face. Yes, Sosuke said. We had met on several occasions. The man smiled, nothing like a little inside information. The young man would be worth betting on.
Ah, see, here was a memorable match. In fact, afterwards, he somehow managed to become a charter member of our club. After a few older members suddenly fell ill and died. Not been heard of for a while.
Sosuke did not answer. The look in his eyes told the man everything he needed to know. He would be betting heavily tonight.
Here we are. Go boom. Please make yourself comfortable. Someone will be with you very soon. Good luck.
His parting remark was said with complete sincerity. The young man might very well provide him with a windfall. Looking down around the simple room, Sosuke chose to sit on a high-backed chair rather than recline on the Spartan bed. He set his down his bag, opened it, and proceeded to check each and every one of its contents. He took a quick look at the picture of Kaname himself at the beach. He waited. All right. Here's something for all you fangirls. He then proceeded to take off his shirt, showing his well-toned abs and his strong, broad chest, and then he proceeded to exercise, do a few push-ups, do some light katas, and then sit down, glaring. You girls are welcome.
Thank you!
Tessa and the intelligence operators whispered a silent prayer of thanks. Sosuke's decision to provide Kaname with a disguised and undetectable microphone was paying huge dividends. Kaname's personal shadow, one Meiwei, will likely be Meiwei Sagawa, daughter of Kazuo Sagawa, a wealthy industrialist with rumored connections to organized crime and foreign intelligence agencies. The man had a lot of powerful friends and had been a mercenary in his youth. His name had been brought up in connection with countless crimes, but none can ever be proven. The young lady had made it a point not to mention her family name, but there were not many Meiweis and officially listed in Japan. It still felt good with their educated guesses. Despite her personal distraction and certain discretion, the rat talk with a girl had no trouble using everyone else's full names as she introduced Kaname around. The fact did not bode well for Kaname. So far, the names mentioned, voices recorded, included politicians, captains of industries, gangsters, assorted blue bloods, and black marketeers, a notable philanthropist, and even a small number of high-ranking military officials. Tessa and Lieutenant Commander Collinan had difficult decisions to make. So far, they were in complete agreement that the rescue teams would remain on standby. The more names he harvested, the better. Tessa felt guilty leaving Kaname in such a dangerous situation, but the rewards were worth the risk. Likewise, he was of two minds regarding Sosuke. Should they let him fight? Should they move in before a single shot is fired? The longer they waited, the greater the number of distance the leads that could be traced and recorded would be. Some watchers might not even tune to the show until the battles were well under way. To make an omelet, one has to break some eggs, Commander Mardukas put in. Tessa felt extremely nervous. All the eggs were in her basket. A lot was at stake here. Instructions were wired to Sergeant Major Mal and the strike teams. After all the important guests and patrons were determined to be present, the requested speeches and requests for donations were made with great verve and aplomb. The crowd was enthusiastic. The betting promised to be lively and unpredictable. Kazuo Sagawa, a denoted industrialist and former mercenary, acted as master of ceremonies. For the benefit of newcomers, the portly but muscular man explained the basics of the competition. Betting regulations were described, leaving no room for uncertainty or misconceptions. The excitement grew with every passing second. When his fellow founding member had finished his spiel, Shigeo Yamada stood at the top of one of the tables, his long-gone fame looking much longer than it really was. An avid historian, his eyes burned with unholy anticipation. This year's scene proved rather memorable. A number of TV monitors in the room came to life, showing the opening scenes of the movie Gladiator. Others still flickered on, giving the crowd the opportunity to watch the opening credits of Ben-Hur.
As some of you might guess, the theme for this year's contest is Roman gladiatorial games.
Mr. Yamada spoke with a vibrant, captivating voice.
Our hand-picked warriors, the equivalent of the gladiators, are willing to join in mortal combat, spilling their blood on the sand for admiration and entertainment. As those ancient days, some of the fighters are criminals and are prisoners of war, expatriated for the purpose of these games. Others are violent, deadly men, wanting to voluntarily prove themselves to equal trained warriors. The majority, however, are the creme de la creme, signing example of mercenaries, professional soldiers, and veterans of law enforcement.
When the crowd ceased their applause, Yamada continued.
In keeping with our theme, the main event will be preceded by the finatio, the hunt. We will release wild beasts into our arenas, trained pit bulls and wolves, apparel leopards, and pride of lionesses, I pulled out of it. Facing the dangers inside beasts, the best warriors will fight for the promised money in their lives.
He posted a remote control, bringing the other screens to light.
Armed with knives, clubs, and spears, our brave troop of drunkards, pimps, and ne'er-do-wells will provide us all with a wonderful spectacle and a chance for some spirited wagering. Please check under your dinner plates. Those of you with an animal head mark will win tonight's door prizes. Fine animal pelts and trophy heads.
There was a excited buzz passing through the crowd, feeling the room was electric.
Following the hunt, we will begin with the primary matches of our competition. Before we get to the hunt, a matter of business. We have an unexpected pleasure for you all. Tonight we will be privileged to start with the humanoids, execution of citizens of lower status.
There were curious questions for the crowd. There was a lot of sweating going on. Just what do you mean by citizens of lower status?
In ancient Rome, the usual forms of execution include crucifixion and burning at the stake. However, we have fire marshals and men of the cloth with us tonight. We will instead resort to ad bestias, the throwing condemned to the beast. We'll also serve a stark reminder to every man, woman, present here tonight. Kazuo, I'll turn matters to you.
Thank you, Shigeo. I must say you have outdone yourself this year. Before we begin, I want to stress the importance of discretion and trust. All of our reputations depend on it. All your lives depend on it. Every so often we will come across someone who makes a mockery of our good graces and faith. When such men and women are discovered, they are dealt with swiftly and permanently.
The answer to the last word was chilling.
Usually such matters are kept private. Tonight it will be a public spectacle. Gentlemen,
Mr. Shikawa nodded to a group of burly men and promptly left the room. When they returned, they were dragging two struggling men.
Mr. Gupta-san, one of our newest members, turns to be an investigative journalist. Mr. Tenji, one of our long-standing partners, was caught in the act of embezzlement. They have therefore forfeited their membership and their lives. Take them away, if you please, Shigo.
Thank you, Kazuo. Let the games begin.
Kaname stood stunned. She felt dirty, just being an unwilling part of that crowd. It was something out of a nightmare. She kept pinching herself hard, hoping that she'd wake up. Her very humanity cried out sorrow for the men sentenced to summary execution and the poor souls trying their ways for a chance at filthy lucre. Most of all, she was worried for Sosuke. She must use her wits to find some way to be of service to him. She smiled. She knew just the thing.